Greetings, traveler. Recently, a traveler from Mexico named the Voidwalker09 asked a question. He says, "What is your opinion on starting as a solo dev with no experience on the games industry? I am a web designer and I've designed a couple of games myself, but I really want to make this my career. But even after years of researching, talking with other people, and even making my own little games, I feel I know so little about the process of making games that jumping to make my big dream game seems daunting and scary." And of course, you can see how that is the case with anyone starting out, right? When you're starting out to do something new, of course, you've never done it before. So for many of us, it feels daunting and scary. Before we jump into break down exactly what I would do in that situation, uh, I want to mention that this feeling is very normal. It is extremely normal to feel this fear and this skepticism towards jumping into something new. And today I want to do two things. First is address that feeling and how we can deal with it and why it exists. And two is share what I would do if I were in the same situation, starting under the exact same conditions. My name is Xanthos. I've been working in the games industry for 14 years, now counting. And starting a new project, especially as a single person, as a solo developer, is very daunting because essentially everything falls on your shoulders. The graphics, the coding, the sound, the playtesting, distribution, selling, everything. So when you're starting out to do all this, of course, it feels very scary. But why does it feel scary? There's surely many other things in life that we do for the first time that don't feel scary at all. For example, going to a new restaurant or traveling to a new place. It doesn't seem scary. Perhaps there's things we don't know about it, but it's not scary and there's no stress related to that. So where does the stress come from? In my experience, when I feel this stress of trying something new, it is because of an unspoken expectation that I put on myself for this first time situation. And this expectation usually something like, it's my first time, but I have to succeed, or I have no resources for this, so I have to make it work the first time with my existing resources, or else what? I don't know. Somehow emotionally we never get to name the or else part, but it's never real and it's never as negative as we imagine. So in the case of the Voidwalker, the expectation here would be, well, it has to succeed the first time around because I would like to make this my career. But if it doesn't succeed, well, nothing happens. There's no negative. There's no repercussion. There's no downside of any sort. The only thing that exists is more experience and him getting further ahead in his journey as a developer than he was before. So basically, it's all pure benefit. So this is important to keep in mind when we're starting out new things, because if we let this emotion stop us and discourage us from moving forward, then really we're just hampering ourselves for no benefit. The only benefit to be had here is to realize that there is no downside to doing this, and you're just gaining experience in the process. So no matter what the outcome is, it's going to be guaranteed 100% positive. So with that mindset, let's jump into the tactics of how to create this big, awesome game as a single solo developer, and taking into account the Void Walker's background. So he mentioned that his background is in web design. He also mentioned that he has already designed a couple of games. He has been making his own little games. So it seems that he has some experience into the process. So if you're doing everything by yourself, then of course you have to think about all the aspects, right? And since he's already a web designer, then there's a good chance he has some experience with designing visual elements to be aesthetically pleasing. So buttons, characters, color selection, composition, and so on. And there's also a fair chance that um, since he's made a few games already on his own, then he knows a little bit of coding, or at least a little bit of scripting to help him define the abilities, the functions of the game, building a prototype, making a standalone executable, and so on. So that's my assumption. If that's not true, again, that's no problem. At this day and age, just a Google search or an AI prompt of how do I make my own executable, or how do I implement this or that function in a language or a games engine is trivial at this point. And I think it's a great tool that we have for game development nowadays. So with that being said, let's break it down a little bit more. So let's take it from the top. And let's say, so the big goal here is to have a game career, and not just a game career, but also a big successful game. Yay. Forgive my horrible letters. So that is the goal here. Actually, let me write this a little bit cleaner and get back. Okay, so this is the big goal. This is what we're going for. Not just the game that he always wanted to make, but also make a career out of it. So the way I define the career is basically being a professional, being your main profession. And also the way I define professional here is having your main income from from the game. There you go. Oh, it's out of the picture. Yeah. So this is really important. Having this happen is important because he needs to be able to sustain himself with the game alone, or with the games he makes. And this is really a benchmark here for whether this is successful or not. So in order for this to happen, then we need a game product. To exist. We need this to exist because we need to sell it, right? So without having something to sell, it's really impossible to make money. Unless you're going the support route, which is an option, but let's stick to the more traditional approach of just simply selling a game for its own value by itself. So to make this happen, we need to have it in a state where people can access it, and it's a sound game, right? So I'll put these two together. So it needs to be accessible somehow, so people can access it and play it. And it needs to be sound. And I don't mean this in the audio sense. I mean it in the structurally sound sense. So the game needs to function. It needs to have no game-stopping bugs. Nothing essentially that would stop somebody from enjoying this experience. So, but to get to that, first we need to have the game content. And by game content, I mean the rules, the game design documents, if you choose to make one, and also the content of the game, as in the code, the graphics, the sound itself, and so on. And this is basically the starting point. So now what we're going to do is follow this list upwards to see how we can get from the game content, which, as he mentioned, he has already made a few times, all the way to having his big dream game and making this into a career. So let's begin. First, the game content. Since he mentioned he has already made a few games in this area, then this should be the easiest right now. So if you're starting down here and you think, how do I get it big from this part, then let's explore the process together. But being here is really the most important thing, because once you have this, you can work your way up and get everything else. If there is no basic game to play, if there's no executable, no actual game to play test and to show to people and so on, then first we need to get that. But since he says he has done this already, let's start from this point. So when you have this, you need to make your game accessible and sound. So let's address the sound part first. The game needs to be complete. It needs to be a complete experience. And of course, in the beginning, this is not entirely possible, right? When you're first working on the game, when you're first starting to work on the game, then you're probably only making one level and just a few abilities or just a few elements of the game. So the game is not complete at that stage yet. And that's completely fine. First of all, the game needs to satisfy you as the developer. It needs to have the things you want to see in the game. It needs to be pleasant gameplay wise to you as a developer, because if it's not pleasant to you as a developer, then there's basically no chance it's going to be pleasant to anybody else. And since you're developing it as one person, then it's super important that any flaw, anything that you think stops the player from experiencing the core gameplay of the game should be addressed first. And this is not to be confused with making the game so it has no flaws, because all games have some flaws. That is inevitable. But just like with any other product out there, no product is perfect, really, but it does satisfy the need it was created for. And over time, it can just keep getting better and better and better, and it will satisfy the need more. But to get started, you need the sound part. So the game needs to be functional, at least for the limited number of levels and the limited number of content you chose to include to get started with this process. And then the game needs to be accessible. So that either means putting it on some platform, putting it on some store, Steam, Epic, iStore, or not iStore, App Store, Google Play. What else is there? Any of the local region online platforms and so on, or even your own website. It all depends on what sort of distribution you have in mind and how you want to make this available to people. And this, by the way, comes into play way earlier than actually getting to sell the game directly. So this comes into play as soon as you have at least one level ready, or at least, let's say, 5 minutes of content or so, because that's when, after you are satisfied with this basic experience, you want to start showing it to people and getting feedback. And making it so that the game doesn't crash all the time and there's no like horrible, huge bugs in it that stop the player from playing the game. And it's accessible. So when you want to show it to your friends or to your family or to people you know and so on, you have a way to do that. It's not just on your phone. It's not just on your computer. Of course, that's fine for the first few times, but eventually you want to get it to a method that others can access it and see how it works for them, not just on your own devices, right? Seeing how other people interact with the game in their own environment is a huge learning experience, and it gives you an idea of how people will actually get to use it and the problems they will encounter in their use case. And having that is a huge, huge blessing, because in the games industry, most of the time, for games that are distributed by, I don't know, like let's say the PlayStation Store to somebody's console very far away, you have no idea what their use case is. You don't know how they're experiencing it, how they're going to go through the game, what menus, what situation they're in. You don't know any of these things. But when you get to share the game with somebody you know and see them playing it, that is extremely valuable, because you see what their use case is and what troubles they will face, and it gives you an opportunity to fix them for everybody else out there. So This process is likely where you will spend most of your time, but that's not to say that this process cannot make money. And you're wondering, well, if the game is not complete, how is it going to make money? It's a very good question. So I see games making money as, or rather, people paying for games as a vote of confidence, as a show of intention, as a testament to the fact that people are having so much fun with this game that they don't want to stop after 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever the initial demo is. People want to pay whatever price you set for them in order to be able to take this experience home and to experience it again. So, how can you find if the game is actually fun, right? If it's actually good enough so people want to buy it? Well, when you're still in this stage where you're slowly building the game and slowly adding more and more levels and gathering feedback from people, and you're hearing things like, it would be fun if there was a water level, or if it would be fun if there was an additional character, an alien character, an animal character, whatever. Or people will say, the sword in this game is fun, but it would be fun to have a bow as well, or an axe, or whatever. Um, People will naturally mention suggestions, and the mindset we want to have here is to be open and accepting to all of them, which is not the same as implementing all of them. This is an important distinction. What I mean to say here is that when someone says, oh, this game would be great with zombies, for example, or this game would be great with dinosaurs, this is really a side quest that just presented itself to you. So it's not something you're supposed to say, oh, one person said we should have zombies, let's change everything to zombies. Sure, you can do that, but really the value here is digging into that suggestion and trying to understand where it comes from. And this goes for all feedback, right? If someone says, "Oh, this game sucks," I'm not enjoying it. Okay, that's some information, but knowing why they said that is all the value here. It's all the gold. So pulling on that thread and slowly understanding what really the players are trying to say when they say I want zombies, or this game is not good, or please add more weapons, and so on. That is a real value. So if the suggestion, after you look into it and after you ask them why they think so, or like at what point in the game did they feel that, is really going to inform you on your next steps. And this is a really, really important step for making money with this game in two ways. First of all, many of the suggestions are just going to be bugs or dysfunctional parts of the game that just naturally occur in any game project. So having them brought to your attention by the players just gives you the opportunity to address them. Otherwise, as developers, we get tunnel vision, especially when we're working on a project for a long time. And we tend to focus on areas that are of interest to us and not necessarily of interest to the players. Maybe we're working for months on this really cool new monster, but most players are having trouble just starting the game and knowing what to do then. So focusing on the player input is super important. And then if the players say something that doesn't align with your vision, for example, if the players say, let's add dinosaurs to the game, but your game is not about that, then you can make a mental note of that and move forward. If while asking them, you found out that the reason why they made that suggestion was that they were not happy with the current content, then that's really what they're saying. They're saying, what I'm experiencing right now is not good because, and then you can ask them about the reason. But if they're just saying it because, they just like dinosaurs, then that's cool. That's not bad. It's just not the direction of the game. But perhaps it's a direction for a future game. Who knows? Another important thing here is when you're getting feedback from people, absolutely never dismiss it. This is a cardinal rule, right? When someone says, oh, I think you should do this, or I think you should do that with a game, even if it's something you have zero intention of doing, you must listen to it and you must hear them out. You need to find out where they're coming from and where this suggestion is bringing from motivation wise for them, right? Why did they offer this suggestion in the first place? It's exactly about following that thread and seeing where they're coming from. The last thing you want to do is, oh no, we're not going to do that, or yeah, that suggestion is fine, but we're not doing that. This feels horrible to listen to anybody who's spending time and effort playing your game and offering feedback. So even if it's something you absolutely don't agree with, instead of saying we're not doing that or I don't think that's a good idea, just hear them out and say, okay, let me think about this. Let me think about this. And later on, you can decide if this is something you want to implement or not. So let's get back to how does this actually make money? Well, in the beginning, when you're showing the game to people, of course, you're doing it for free, right? There's so much value in their feedback that essentially they're paying you with feedback instead of money in the beginning. And eventually, as you keep implementing this feedback and fixing the bugs and expanding the content and making the game more interesting, naturally, its value as a product rises because it becomes better and better than, I don't know, 90% of the games out there that were made, just as a test, and especially in the mobile space. And there was no particular care given to them. So as the game slowly rises in value as a product, then you can start asking people the question, would you like to buy it? Or would you like to buy it for, I don't know, 10 cents, 50 cents, a dollar, whatever seems like a good starting cost in the beginning. So here, of course, getting $1 for one game is not life-changing, and it doesn't immediately make this into a career, but it is the beginning. Let me explain. So after you sit down with someone and they play your game and you observe them and you see that they're having fun and they say, I like this and that about the game, please give me more stages and so on. Then when they get to the end of that experience, let's say you set it to 5 minutes and they want to play for more than 5 minutes, that is your intention that they're having fun. If they weren't having fun, they would drop the game before the time limit that you set. You don't have to say what the time limit is, by the way, you just let them play. But mentally you think, let's try to aim for 5 minutes. When they want to go beyond that, it means that they're having enough fun to go beyond that. And then you know that this is an experience that possibly they wouldn't mind paying money for. And when you hit your time limit mark, that by constantly improving the game, that is when you know that you can start asking money for the game. And I recommend starting with as small a price as possible, especially in the beginning, because that's how you know that people are willing to make the mental commitment to do this. So if you're showing the game to them over coffee or over lunch or dinner or whatever, you can start by saying, you know what, if you buy me this coffee, this game is yours forever with all the future updates. Or you say, I don't know, buy me a drink or buy me a dessert or whatever, and you can keep this game and I'll keep updating it. And coming from the feedback you just got earlier, if they say something like, this game, I'm really enjoying it, but it only has 3 levels. I would really like you to add a couple more levels. Then you can say, well, would you mind paying 50 cents for it? And I'll make the levels that you requested. So here, one of two things will happen. Either they will say, yes, I wouldn't mind buying this game to get the levels and, of course, all the future updates. Or they'll say, yes, because I think this is a great game and, this is a great discount on a good game, so I don't mind getting in early. Or they will say that they don't like it. And then this is again another opportunity for you to dive in and find out why they don't like it. Getting $1 for a game, like I said, is not really as important as finding out why, what trouble people are having with the game or what is stopping them from enjoying it that much, and then working on it. that feedback is way more interesting and way more important than $1 or 50 cents or whatever you asked for in the beginning. Because that is a one-time event, while the game being of higher quality is forever. It's something that's going to exist forever, and once you have this benefit, the game only gets better from there on. So either you get money for the game even in this super early stage, or you get feedback for the game, which just makes it better and makes it easier to get money for it in subsequent conversations. And so when you get people starting to say, yeah, I wouldn't mind paying 50 cents for it, or I wouldn't mind paying $1 and so on, that is when you can start slowly raising the cost of the game. And how much you want to raise the cost or how much you want to set the initial cost at is entirely up to you. It's entirely up to the type of game you're making. Maybe you're making a super fun and quick mobile game or a browser game, or maybe you're making the next GTA. So it's entirely up to you what you want to charge. But basically, starting from a cheap, solid base and then expanding is a sound way to move forward with this and to actually start making some money with it. And once you hit the mark of, $1 or $2 or $5 or whatever you think is appropriate for a game of this type, this is where some market research for similar games can help you decide what your desired price is. Then you are here. You have made the game accessible, you have made sure it's sound, you have made sure it has enough content to be able to carry itself and to provide people with some fun. And now it has become a game product. It is out there, it is on a platform, it is on a website, it's available for distribution. It's got enough build quality to work on most people's devices, and it's got enough content to carry it through. And you have confirmed that the game is fun enough that people want to actually pay money for it. And here you have your product. And now you're wondering, okay, so am I done here? Did I win? Can I start making games forever? Well, possibly. It depends on how much money you're making from this game. So if this game is on Steam or Epic or App Store, Google Play or PlayStation Store, Xbox Store, your website, really, it's up to you to decide what platform suits you the most. That is when the game can start becoming available to more and more people. Us in the games industry are extremely lucky because we're working on software, and software really, really depends on the quality of the software to promote itself. If a piece of software is good, people recommend it. If a game is good, gamers recommend it to their friends. So that is the point where you know that this game has real potential for expanding beyond. So maybe you only got a few dollars from showing the game to your friends and your relatives and them saying they won't buy it, but raising the price to the level that you want and still being active, still doing the feedback loop, still listening to people and incorporating the feedback into the game is what makes the game better and better and better. And honestly, this is something that most commercial, let's say, game companies out there are not willing to do. Most companies that I know of, they simply push a project out there. If it doesn't perform in the first, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 months or something, usually the project is canceled. Usually the team is let go or reassigned to different projects and they start all over again. But as a solo developer, you have the option of keep working on the game, keep polishing it, keep making it better and better and better, keep building a community, whether it's on forums or your Discord or what other options are there? Maybe email lists, maybe your game's websites, any place where you can have a stable list, maybe YouTube, the comments, anything is possible here. So anywhere where you can reach out to the people playing your game or have bought your game and keep telling them, listen, we updated this, we fixed that, we added this new content, and so on. You show your community that you are actively working on this game. And again, this is different from most games out there, because most games out there are not being actively worked on. Even the good ones, they were made and then they were released, and that's it. So this is another really, really big advantage that we have in the games industry, or you have as a single developer, and not having to do marketing the traditional way. So paying money for advertising and covering billboards with your game and so on is a huge advantage that we have. So eventually, by doing this, you will get enough money to at least support yourself doing this. So the game will have enough updates, it will reach enough people, it will be good enough for more and more people to buy it because you're making it better and better every day. So it makes sense for more people to download it and play it and have fun with it. And when your income from this game is enough to sustain you, so pay for your rent and your food and your charges and so on, then this becomes your main income, and this is the beginning of your dream career, your big dream game, and having a career out of making video games. And everything that brought you here, that passion for the game, that constant will for improvement, engaging your community, being positive and open towards them, and trying to deliver as good a product as possible, as good as a game as possible to them, is your advantage. It's your edge, and this community is your unique weapon in this fight. And nobody else has the community that you do, and nobody else has the game that you do. So this is how I would approach it. This is what I would do, and honestly, I am doing for a while now. And I think we always underestimate how important it is to stay human and to keep improving on something. Nowadays, everything is focused on short-term profit and like quick bucks and like big investments and all that stuff. Um, I don't know if this is good or bad. It's just the way the world is. But these are things I discovered really help us when we're trying to make our own projects and strike it out on our own. So if this is a framework you can use and this is interesting to you, I will be super happy about it. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope this helps. If you have specific questions about any of these steps, or how you can get started with a game design document, or in a game engine, or how you can show your game to your friends and so on, if there's something I can help, please let me know and I will definitely take a look at it. Anyway, that's it for today. I thank you so much for your time, and as always, have fun.